You're listening to WPVM 103.7 on the dial and streaming at WPVMFM.org.
Hey everybody, I'm Peter D.A. from WPVM. Today it's my pleasure to welcome the Silver Doors.
Hello, Peter.
Hello.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us, Peter.
Hello, Peter.
Why don't we start off by each of you introducing yourselves and what your role is in the band.
My name is Bryce. I play drums in the band.
My name is Justin, and I play the violin on the band.
I am Brett, and I sing and play the bass guitar.
My name is Alex, and I play guitar and sing.
Terrific. Well, I've heard you in concert and I'm very impressed with the type of music you're writing and playing. I understand from what I've read that Bryce and Alex first met at UNC Asheville and bonded over your love of heavy blues rock.
Yes. So maybe 2014 or 15 we probably first met. We were in a previous band together where I played bass. Bryce was still on drums. We just met through that, like you said, just mutual love of rock and roll and blues. And that previous band was definitely its own totally separate entity, not related to the Silver Doors at all. That was just where we met and where we first started playing music together. But this new formation is just, I knew that Bryce is a great drummer, and I reached out to Brett and Justin and Bryce, knowing they were great musicians, and here we are.
Would you like to
during the COVID era of 2020, Alex and myself and another drummer started jamming as just like a thing to do. We weren't playing shows. We had some creative juices flowing. And so we got together and we were writing songs and having a good time and just kind of jamming and seeing what came about. And then that drummer, his name was Russell, he moved away to Charleston. And so Alex and I were kind of like, well, what are we going to do? So we kind of let it settle for a little bit. And then he contacted me a little while later and was like, hey, I'm ready to get back to doing that again, kind of in a different way, but kind of in the same way. And I was like, well, do you know a drummer? He's like, yeah, Bryce. So we got Bryce together, and then me, Bryce, and Alex jammed, and we wrote a couple songs, and then we were determined to find another member. We were open to keyboard, extra guitar, just some sort of other instrument, and then saxophone, actually, which is, you're still in my phone as Justin Saxophone, even though he does not play the saxophone. We were on the hunt for a fourth member, somebody to really round out the what we were working with. And Alex had previously worked at Moog, the Moog factory, and he was like, hey, I know this guy Justin, who's really into jamming, and he plays violin, and he like runs it through like a pedal board, and it sounds really cool. I think this would be a really awesome addition. So we got together and we had like a free form jam and showed Justin some of the stuff we had been working on, and it was just like a instant fit, and it really rounded out the sound to what we were looking for. We were looking for something a little more unique. Like we said, like we were open to guitar or keyboards, but we wanted something a little bit more to like take it to the next level, and Justin definitely brought that energy.
I see. Is there any significance in the band's name?
We went through dozens, if not hundreds, of band names, and eventually settled on that one. It comes from a song title by a band called The Dead Meadow. They have a song called Sleepy Silver Door, and I thought that was a cool name, and it's a great song by a really cool, heavy psych band. So I just said it one day after practice, and we were all like, that's the one. So it just kind of stuck after kind of pulling our hair out for probably months and months. It finally just like, oh yeah, that sounds great. Let's do that.
I particularly liked it because of the Silver Beatles connection, which was not the real connection, but there's like the Doors, and or they're the Beatles, and they were the Silver Beatles before, and then there's a band called the Doors, and then now we're the Silver Doors, and it seems like a real timeless classic name that surprisingly no one has ever named their band.
Interesting. First of all, I'm impressed with your Beatle knowledge.
Oh.
I didn't expect somebody this young to be so up on
I'm a little fanboy of the Fab Four.
Oh.
I went to Liverpool, and I was like, let's go see where the Beatles played.
Yeah. We did too. Yes, it was a great visit. Let me understand how the band works together, not only in songwriting, but in taking that song and putting all the parts together.
So either Alex or Brett will come up with songs, and they'll bring them in and kind of either have like a rough edit, or they'll just come in and play it, the chord progression and also like what they're have in mind for the vocals. And each of the songs is a little bit different, but for the most part, he kind of marinates with everybody, and we all kind of sit down with it and just see what comes out, and just start like throwing paint on the wall basically, and seeing what really kind of has traction. And it's not even a sure shot that anything is ever set in stone. I can't think of a good example of something actually having a very huge left turn in it in particular, but they've definitely been molded and shifted as we've played them more and more, especially as we play them out more and more, because if we take a break, there's a good chance that we'll come up with a brand new method or a brand new direction, a lot more emotion sometimes, or like there's some sort of level up on our end that suddenly you're bringing something new. But I'd say that it really crystallizes once we actually get out and start playing in front of people. We have a lot of it already written, sort of, in terms of like, this is what the riff sounds like, this is what the melody sounds like. But for the instrumentation, there's always something brand new that's going to come out on the live shows. There's always going to be something that is not rote that we're trying to aim for. For me especially, like if there's a solo part, usually it'll be like the first section of it, like the lead in will have a very specific melody, but then after that it's like, who knows, tonight's going to be this one. And don't try to have anything in mind, just try to like let it flow.
It sounds almost like jazzy in a way, where you have this structure and that you can go off and express yourselves depending on your instrument in different ways. So, as I understand it, a person seeing you on a Tuesday night might get a completely different show on a Wednesday night, although in general they would recognize the song, sort of like the Grateful Dead or whatever, would change and would experiment with that. And do you get, when you do that, do you get feedback from your audience? I mean, do you ask people, what did you think of this? How are we doing? Or do friends say to you, you know what, hang it up with that song? Or, hey, that was fantastic, take it further?
I think we really have those conversations internally, and I'll be like, Justin, I really liked what you did on this particular take. Because, we also record the songs, so when we go to the studio, we try to be as like prepared as possible. So we do have try to have like strong ideas of where that's going to look like. But we do create what I call soft boxes, which are, so in a song, it's like, this goes like this goes like this, and then here's a soft box that can change. As long as you stay within the parameters of the song and the vibe and the feeling and the emotion we're conveying, you can really do whatever you want. And we might do that extended. Like some of the songs we'll like go, sometimes it's like 4 measures, and then sometimes it's like 16 measures, but it's not quite as like jammy as like a Grateful Dead thing. You know what I mean? Like there's still a trajectory. And that's what I mean by like soft boxes. Like it's still within the parameters of what we're doing. It's a chance to express yourself, because as musicians, like when you script every note you play, you lose the element of the present. Like we're here, we're tonight, like we're all feeling good, we're having a great time, or like maybe I had a hard day and I need to get something out, and playing this happy song isn't really going to work quite as well. So I'm going to take this opportunity to kind of add in a little dissonance, because that's how I feel like.
I'd also like to add, absolutely, the jazz mentality is there. And I think that that's a very Asheville thing, is this notion of showing up and really focusing. Like as a musician, coming to Asheville was remarkable because the audience brought so much attention and nuance. They knew a lot more than I did about what I was playing in a weird way, which was fun. Because then they would tell me, like, do you know this person? Do you know that person? This sounded like this other thing, and it sounds like you're about to do this other thing that so-and-so did too, which is remarkable to be around. And the more I'm here and the more I get to play out and play with people from other places, you start to hear different interpretations of, you know, what it means to go up on that stage. And in a real way, just as Brett just mentioned, it takes what our mood is, but also what the mood of the room is to really kind of pivot how the songs come out. And we just recently went on a 4-day tour, which doesn't sound like much, but that's the first time that we got to play 4 nights in a row, back to back. And every one of those nights was very different. And it totally changed based on the other members of the bands or the other bands that we were playing alongside, but also the type of room and the type of crowd and the type of energy that we were bringing. But I think that there's a real sensitivity that all of us have to that style of what are other people in the mood for.
You mentioned about coming to Asheville to an audience that is, I could say, sophisticated when it comes to music. Are any of you native to Asheville? Bryce? Okay, Bryce is, so maybe he can talk about that from somebody from the outside and the inside, how you perceive the music scene here.
I think being native here and playing music for multiple years is you start to learn there's different venues around town that sort of cater to certain genres. So like the genre we play is maybe not what certain venues are going to want to see every night. Even though Asheville's a small city, I think it does yield like a lot of different types of music that you can play at different places. So if you play rock and roll or jazz or jam bands or whatever, you can kind of find those avenues to where hopefully you show up to that venue and the people that want to hear your music are there listening to it, rather than if you go to a venue and realize the crowd doesn't want to hear that type of music, then you're in the wrong place.
Right.
So being a smaller city, I think it is maybe easier to find those venues where people want to hear rock and roll kind of stuff. But it's a city that's growing pretty fast, so maybe that's changing with us. So it might be something we have to adapt to as we continue to book shows. I like to think that we play agreeable music to where that most, if you like a lot of different genres of music, you could listen to our set and not, you would probably enjoy the stuff we play, because the songs we play sort of cover a spectrum of sounds. We have some quieter songs, some louder songs, slower and faster, and I don't think there is a textbook formula to any of the music to where that if you like contemporary music, you probably could listen to our set and enjoy it. So which I think is important we're not confined to one genre, and therefore not confining to particular venues or avenues or radio or whatever. So
following up on what you just said, I've read that the band describes their music or your music as a blend of psych rock, desert-inspired guitar riffs, blues backbeats, and garage rock. Can you kind of describe that recipe and the various ingredients?
This is like a melting pot of musicians, and so that's part of it, is we all come from different musical backgrounds, but we also exist in a city where there's a ton of different kinds of music. And in the modern age where you can get your hands on any kind of music at any moment, at any time of day, no matter when or where it comes from, that it's possible to be to have that kind of thread weaves our quilt of music that we make as well, because like Alex and Bryce were saying, they met over their love for heavy blues music. So that's like Led Zeppelin and things of that nature. And Justin, who's weirdly from New York, plays crazy bluegrass music, and I have more of a like punk garage background of my music playing, but all between the four of us, like our taste expand way beyond that. So we make first and foremost music we'd like. So that does not mean that we like set out to, it's like, okay, if we're writing a song, it's like, how can we make this sound like Appalachian desert rock? You know what I mean? That's just what came of it, because the violin adds that we're living in the mountains, and so the mountains and this area inform the music, and so the violin gives it that sort of like string band feel. My bass playing is a little bit more aggressive than your standard like stand-up bass player. I play electric bass. I literally learned how to play music in a garage. And then, Alex comes from the first show he ever went to, I'm speaking for you now, was a blues man.
Yeah. The first show I ever saw was the bass player who formerly played with Muddy Waters.
Wow.
Had his own band, and that was like my first live show. But yeah, that definitely informs a lot of my influence.
Justin, who's coming from New York, when you came down here, what were you expecting?
When I first came down here, I wasn't expecting anything. My wife suggested it because she hiked the Appalachian Trail and told me, I think you would like this town. And I said, Nashville? She said, no. And we got here, and I was immediately just blown away by it because we just didn't fit in New York, despite being born and raised there. I remember the first time we were here for a vacation, we went to one of the coffee shops in the middle of town, and I saw a table. It was really squished together, really tight, so you would have to really be careful walking between tables. And one table was a pair of nuns, and the other table had a pair of punk rockers fully done up in leather and safety pins, and totally fine together. And it was remarkable too, coming from New York, everybody looks each other in the eye. And I think that musically it's very similar to that, where it is everybody, like Brett said, where it's a melting pot. And it really has that aspect of everybody may not stay at the venue where the thing is happening that's not their bag, but they at least walk by it and they can appreciate it,
Understood.
And there's very much that same aspect of transplants is a cultural thing that I found in Asheville. Is like everybody, it's rare to find anybody that is from Asheville in Asheville. And it's just a majority of people that are coming here from elsewhere, but they're not trying to make it their hometown. They came here to experience the meeting of the minds kind of thing. I don't know much about like other towns, other like, establishments like Nashville or, San Francisco, Seattle. I haven't been to those places and experienced their music scene, but New York's music scene to me felt far more of, clicks, bubbles, and it's very hard to go from one spot to the next spot. It's a big deal. And like you will go to some place that has gypsy jazz night, and that's all that's going to happen. There's not going to be anything that deviates. And the thing is that if you're an up and coming musician there, you can busk in the subway, which is the worst place in the world to have music happen. But there's not really as much of an inviting ecosystem that is just there for people that are here to put in the hours, because it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot, to immerse yourself and almost marinate in it and imbue yourself with like a live performer to become that, as a craftsperson. And, just coming here tonight, we're here on Wall Street in Asheville, and I saw at least 5 buskers out, varying degrees of skill level. And it's not about that. It's just a matter of like people are out doing it. And that's a big deal. You won't find that necessarily in every metropolitan city, but that's a huge part of Asheville.
From what I'm hearing you say, Asheville is a very fertile place to do your art, to play your music. Speaking of your music, Could you give me a song you suggest which would give people an idea of just what you're talking about?
I would say Dirt Nap is a good example of our sound in general, just because it goes from pretty heavy right out the gate to a middle section bridge that is pretty quiet and delicate in comparison, and it has Justin and I kind of almost duetting on guitar and violin. So you go from like wall of sound to kind of a more laid back section. So I feel like that kind of exemplifies a good range of dynamics and style that we kind of incorporate, not only into the rest of the songs, but in the set as well.
With all the bands out there, online, and all the seemingly professional audio devices these days where you can turn your living room into a professional recording studio, YouTube, and the sound sites where you can download and actually pay for your recordings, how does a band today rise up to the top?
If you figure that out, please let us know. I'll have this discussion often as a member of the musical community, but I also work in record stores, and basically everything I talk about is music, and it's wild. This is the wildest time for music ever. Like you said, more people have more access to more gear and recording music than ever in history, and it's also really easy to get it to a mass audience. So I don't know how to make it, and I think that you see less and less bands actually quote unquote making it. I mean, the joy is that there's nobody telling them to change their art form. You know, there's no label that's like, you can't do this, or this song's not good, you have to redo it. But there's also nobody putting money behind that. I think people's attention span, because there's so much music, is a lot less. So like, I'll hear about a band that has a lot of hype for 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks later you never hear about them again until they either come back through touring. So it just kind of depends on what your definition of success is. You know what I mean? If you're looking to be the next, Beatles or Michael Jackson or something, you probably aren't. Like, even Taylor Swift has been on every news outlet with her, how much money she's made on this tour, and even she's perplexing everybody because they never thought somebody could be that big again, and she might be the last. Like, I mean, there's always going to be famous musicians, there's always going to be people making a lot of money from entertainment, but there's no formula for it, and you have to be at the right place at the right time doing the right thing, or have enough of somebody's money to back you up. And I played a show earlier this week, and this band brought a professional lighting rig, professional sound system, professional keyboards, like everything was top of the line, and there were 6 people there, and they were great. They were on point, and that's just like the nature of it. Like, for them, I mean, they probably, on their tour, they probably did, I would guess probably 25 dates, and probably 5 of them were wildly successful, and 20 of the other ones were just trying to get their name out there. And that's a band that, like, I mean, their Spotify listens were pretty high. Like, they had done everything that you could think to do. You know what I mean? Like, they wrote good songs, they had a professional performance, they were professional players, they had professional, like, executives with them, like, you know what I mean? They had like a tour manager, all the emails were all very professional, like, we're going to split the money this way and percentages and things like that. So for me, my definition of success had to change. I'm not going to make enough money out of this to live on. So I shifted that. And so for me, this is a wildly successful band because we get together and we make good music that I like. And I have fun with my friends.
I think speaking to other musicians that are looking to like make it or something, the first thing I would say, especially from New York, seeing it all the time, if you want to be a creative, you have to create. Stop talking about it. Stop thinking about it. Stop analyzing it. Stop planning it. Just make it, make it, make it, make it. It doesn't matter if it's good. Doesn't matter if it's bad. Doesn't matter about anything. In fact, stop using the word good and bad. Just think about it more in terms of, is this sincere?
Be true to yourself as an artist.
That is it entirely. And I think that that's also the best measurement of success for any creative, because I think it's Billy Crystal was talking about an inspiring comedian that was kind of a mentor to him. And on the last days that he was like, just had made one of his shows, I think it was Sheets. I don't remember. But he said he was telling his mentor about it. And the mentor said, "Are you happy with what you were doing?" And Billy had to stop for a second and say, "Yeah, I am." And he said, "That's great, because they can never take that away from you." And then that's all you need, because the crowds come, the crowds go, the money comes, the money goes. All that stuff is, shifting and moving, but really you're the constant. You're the one that has to keep showing up to the gig or don't. You're either doing this and you are the art, or you're not.
Do they still send out scouts to clubs to listen? Have you ever seen a record label person come to you or another band and say, "Hey, I like your sound. I'm from Columbia Records. We'd like to maybe talk about signing you"?
I have never experienced that. I mean, Asheville, of course, at this moment doesn't have a record label. None of my friends or fellow musicians that I've met have ever said anything like that. So I feel like those days feel like they're behind us, just because what Brett was talking about, huge people like Taylor Swift, these things are already kind of baked in some ways. I don't feel like there are record label executives like going to clubs looking for the next big rock band.
Billie Eilish comes to mind because, if I'm not mistaken, she really made her name on social media with her brother working that. And then, the record company people, they didn't even have to leave their office. They saw it. Is that more common?
I think so. There are some Asheville bands that have been making some cool waves, which is incredible for our community, and we're so proud of our peers if they'll consider us as such. But I did see where Wednesday and MJ Linderman are two bands in town that have made huge splashes and are doing. I just saw they posted they're playing in Australia in the coming year, and they did have labels that were asked, like, they took them out to dinner, they came and they wined and dined them and were like, "We want to sign you." And I think they had a couple labels asking for them, but it wasn't because they went to their show at Static Age. It wasn't because, it was seeing them on social media, hearing about it, them going on tour. They probably, I think in some of those labels probably sent people to see them in some of the bigger cities, but it's not the thing where they're like, "Hey, we need an artist. Peter, go down to the jazz club and see who's, kicking around a kick drum down there." It's like that. Like, they look at your analytics, like, how many people did you reach with your song? How many songs is your play? Like, what have you already done that we can cash in on? They don't want a band that, like, this isn't that thing you do. They're not like, "We can really lift you off the ground." They're like, because they're failing. No record label is soaring high anymore. They're busting butt to stay afloat at all. So when they see a band that has 200,000 monthly listeners and has released 2 albums on their own dime, that's touring, booking tours, like doing everything that we used to rely on labels to do, then they're like, "Hey, let's share the money." But even still, like a band like Wednesday that is here, they posted a thing about their struggle to pay for their trip to South by Southwest. That got a lot of traction because people were like, "That's tacky." And then other artists like like big name artists that everybody knows was like, no, that's real. Like, you know, like you can't go do these things without money, you know.
Right.
Animal Collective is a huge band and there's a lot of their members here, but they had a European tour canceled because they were like, we did all the math and we will not make money. We can't do this. We are going to lose money to do, and they're huge. I mean, you look at their monthly Spotify listens and it's probably in the hundreds of thousands. I mean, some of their songs probably have millions and millions and millions of listens, and they will be a timeless band that people know all over the world. And they're like, we're not going to do it. So how is a band of, you know, 4 guys from Asheville, North Carolina gonna make it like that?
2 things is, first of all, there's a lot of luck involved. It seems like the stars need to be aligned, and somehow fantastic bands get signed and some fantastic bands don't get signed. But it seems to me from what you're telling me that social media, whether that's Spotify, I don't know if you call that social media, that's just a platform for listening, but all the other, it's almost like all of those platforms are audition platforms. It's almost like every time you go on the internet or one of those platforms, you're auditioning for the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Brett said it really well that, I mean, you have to be marketable in a lot of ways. And like you were saying about luck, something came to mind that I try and kind of keep in mind when I'm thinking about all this and playing music and trying to do this thing, is that there is luck involved, but you kind of have to set yourself up to be ready for the luck. Like you have to put yourself in a position where, okay, if we go on tour and we play with some really killer bands, let's be on top of our game and let's bring the best show we can every time, and let's put out great videos and let's make a music video. And if we put ourselves out there and set ourselves up and to be receptive to that, then you just have to set yourself up for whatever happens and be ready. Like not that I have any expectations of anything happening. I try and have little to no expectations of success or anything like that. Like Brett was saying, it's all like the personal success. I very much agree that if we can keep playing music and keep recording music and stuff, then I'm super happy. But yeah, that just kind of made me think of that, sort of just setting yourself up. Like we work with, like I have a friend, Adam, who is here videoing us. Basically, like, who can we call on to shoot an awesome music video with us? And, what studio can we go to? And let's just make the best stuff that we can. So when time comes, we've put our work in.
You guys obviously put a lot of work into it. And also, I could feel the creative energy from everybody. You really seem to be listening to each other and communicating with them. Keith Richards talks about, in songwriting, turning off the spigot or the creative part. In other words, that it's just flowing out of you, the creativity. Do you guys ever just stop, go for a cleanse, if you will?
One thing that was interesting is that for a while, when we were first getting together to do practices, or when I joined and we were doing practices, the first 10 to 25 minutes of every time we would practice would just be us talking. And we would just talk, not necessarily about like what we wanted to accomplish, but sometimes it would be that. Other times it would just be like, well, how was your day? We'd just be getting on the same page in a lot of ways. And, we would do something where like we'll practice straight through. If we know we have a show, we'll practice straight through the whole set, figure it out, arrange it, make some minor tweaks, take a break, walk outside, come back inside. And like you said, there will be a cleansing. There will be like a sort of brand new direction to it. And kind of in regards to what you were talking about, like personally for the process of creating, you were talking about the spigot and like how much effort goes into it. There's this weird aspect of paying attention without controlling. You're trying to bring as much brain power to the situation as possible without curving it. You're not trying to control it. You're trying to allow it to be there when it's needed, but you're not trying to have an expectation unless you're playing a specific part. If you're doing the improvisation thing, like we were talking about, then you're doing something very different where, like I'm saying, you're just like being there. You're just allowing the flow to happen and that spigot to just run.
You're just a vehicle.
Precisely. As some other people have called it, a vessel, you know, and you're trying to wait for something to happen.
Right. Bob Dylan often speaks of that, of that he doesn't know where his songs come from. They just appear.
But he would have never had him if he didn't play guitar and sing. You know what I mean? Like, he's saying he doesn't know where his songs come from, but they come from when he sits down and plays the guitar and sings it. You know what I mean? Like, as Alex was saying, like, you got to put yourself in that situation. Like, I, for a long time, didn't write songs because I never sat down and played guitar and wrote songs. And it's the same thing. It is an amazing thing when you write something and you're like, where did that come from? But it came from you putting yourself in the path of the energy, of the creative wave. You know, that's like we get together and like Justin was saying, sometimes we will run through the set, but other times we just free form jam, and sometimes it doesn't turn into anything, and then sometimes it turns into a cool new song just like that. And it's just as like, where'd that come from? And it's like, well, it came from us jamming. It came from us playing. We are a vessel for the creativity, but everybody can be that, but you have to put yourself in that, in the road, in the middle of the road, to get smacked by the truck. You know, you're not going to get hit by a car if you're not standing in the road.
Well, you bring up something very interesting. You guys write together, not individually, or individually and together?
It kind of varies. A song like Losing Hand, I probably wrote more of that song in general. Dirt Nap was like more Brett. So I would say it comes from different places, but in the end, it's pretty collaborative.
When you bring it to the other band members, I would think that's a very brave thing to do, because you're vulnerable in a way, in the sense that they could say, this is the worst I've ever heard. What is the emotional risks to writing a song and then showing it to the world or your bandmates, more importantly?
It's being very vulnerable, but one of the most satisfying parts of it is being vulnerable together. And I know that I'm being vulnerable by showing this to you, Brett, or whoever, or to the band. But that's the kind of, you know, the payoff is that we reach something a little deeper because, hey, we're all putting ourselves into this. I'm putting myself into this. So you know that it's worth it, even if it is scary to put yourself out there.
My method is to not ask myself if it is good or bad until it's done. So if I bring something to the band, even if it's scary, we don't decide if it's good or bad until we've tried it. And then it's pretty obvious because we're all kind of we're all riding in the same boat here. We're going to judge each other on our best ideas and not our worst ideas. And these are some of the most supportive people I know, who are like, oh, that's great. Even if I'm like, it's not that great. You know what I mean? Like, it's just something. And so we try it. And then I think as a songwriter, it's not really up to you to decide how good something is. Like, it's important to decide how much it means to you. But at the end of the day, like, a song that I'm like, this might be a throwaway thing could really land and like have a lot of impact for somebody. Dirt Nap is a perfect example. I showed it to Alex and Justin, was like, I was working on this last night and I don't really know about it. And they're like, oh no, this is great. And so we just rolled with it, you know. The act of creating was what we were doing. And so like, doesn't hurt us to write a song that's not very good, because then we should just not play it.
So it sounds like you've all created a safe place for each other to be creative, to take risks, and know that you won't be shamed for your writing.
Yeah. If that was an attitude we have, we wouldn't be doing this. You know what I mean? If one person was like really judgmental or Justin said earlier on that a lot of what we do is throwing paint at the wall. You know what I mean? Like, and then it a lot of times, like, we'll like go a million different places with something, and then we kind of circle back and be like, this is where it felt the best, and then we start to carve away. And some of the songs take life in as long as it takes to play them, and some of them we chip away at for weeks. You know what I mean? Every time we get together, we work on it a little bit. And, there's a new song that we haven't even recorded yet that we wrote, and we probably played it 25 different ways. Like, we tried the solo here, we tried the solo here, we tried going quiet this part and then loud at this part, and then it took that long to finally get to where it made the most sense. And only possible to do that because we're supportive. Nobody's like, I can't believe you made me play that song again. Like, we're having a good time. The goal of what we're doing is to get together and play music. So at the end of the day, if that's what we're doing, then we're all pretty happy.
That's great. We're getting near the end of the show. While we have some time, tell me what's happening to the future. I understand you might be having an album come out next year. I've heard rumors on the street about this.
Yeah. Yes.
It's all over town.
Yeah. The rumors are true. Yeah, I'm here to confirm that they are true. Yeah, we recorded at the amazing and beautiful Drop of Sun in West Asheville. We're shooting for early 2024 for that batch of songs, and I'm super thrilled about what we did there.
Now, will this come out in vinyl?
Peter, I have a really important question for you. Have you ever wanted to start a record label that pays for our vinyl to come out? Because if so, the answer is yes.
Understood. So as we end the show today, first of all, I'd like to say thank you so much for coming by the studio. You've been a pleasure to talk to, and I'd like to go out with another one of your songs. If you could give me a suggestion to do that as we roll out, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, let's hear Losing Hand.
Okay.
Great song. One of our earlier tunes, mostly written by Alex, but as he said earlier, we got to collaborating on it, so you can hear in the bridge section that we really all kind of brought that together as like a part of the jam. But I think this song actually really encapsulates what we do and how we do it the best. Is we let Justin work really hard and play the hell out of the violin while we support. The main thing about Silver's Doors in our songs is that we all support each other. We're supportive of each other in our songwriting, but like, we pick the idea and then we support that idea. So like, you can feel in the emotion of this song that we picked the emotion and then we let that lead us all. Nobody is stepping on each other's toes. Nobody's doing something flashy for the sake of doing something flashy. It all carries the same weight. And this song is a great example of that.
I hold on tight.
Fantastic. And Silver Doors, best of luck. Keep in touch. For all of those out there in Radio Land, they're around town. So come by, see them for yourself. I think you'll be very happy you did. Take care.